So welcome to the Burren, land of stone in the old Gaelic translation. This is a very special landscape. Geologically, it's made of glaciated karst limestone. Ecologically, it contains over 70% of Ireland's native flora. And archaeologically, it contains monuments dating back to almost 6,000 years ago, right up to the present day. So it's an incredibly special place. It's really Ireland's greatest repository of natural and cultural heritage. And as such, it's a place that we really need to look after. I think it's like the soul of Ireland. When it comes to looking after the Burren, it's quite obvious really that we need to do it in harmony with the farming community, because they own the land, they own the livestock, they have the knowledge on how to manage this land. And our role in the Burren Programme is to work with those farmers and provide them with the support to manage the land in the right way in order that this incredible repository of heritage is protected and preserved and enhanced for future generations. The Burren landscape is a very special place, and it really is some place that we need to look after. How to do it is a challenge. We've tried using designations which have been important to protect the archaeology and the biodiversity and the habitats of the Burren. But we need to do more than that, because the Burren has evolved for thousands of years along with farming activity. So if we want to ensure a sustainable future for this landscape, we have to try and maintain the right type of farming in the landscape. And that's what the Burren Programme tries to achieve, working with farmers as partners to continue to generate good agricultural outcomes, but do it in such a way that protects and enhances the unique landscape and heritage of the Burren. The origins of the Burren Programme go back to the late 1990s when we did a piece of research here looking at the relationship between the farmers and the landscape of the Burren. And that really highlighted the fact that the wrong type of farming can really destroy the values of the Burren, be it the water quality or the habitats or even the geology. But the right type of farming is critical. And by the right type of farming, I mean the sustainable grazing and feeding systems. So that piece of research led to European funding via what's called the Burren Life Project between 2005 and 2010. And that was a very successful project. It won the best Life Nature project of all time in a recent award ceremony. And as a result, it was funded through the Burren Farming for Conservation Programme in 2010. And we've been funded via the Department of Agriculture and also the National Parks and Wildlife Service since then under what's now called the Burren Programme. So when it comes to looking after the Burren and making sure it has as good a future as possible, the biggest challenge we face is the imbalance that has grown between farming and the landscape. So we have, I guess, two major problems. One is under-farming, by which I mean the hills of the Burren, the rough limestone grasslands, which are so full of heritage, natural and cultural, are gradually becoming undergrazed and in some cases abandoned because it's not that viable or not that efficient to farm those places anymore. And when we lose farming from those areas, we lose biodiversity, we threaten the cultural heritage. In contrast, other parts of the farm and of the farmland of the Burren are becoming more and more intensively managed through the use of heavy machinery, possibly, or chemicals and fertilizers. And in those areas, that poses a serious risk, not just to the habitats, but also to the water quality and to the landscape features. So what we're trying to do in the Burren Programme is address those challenges by taking a more balanced approach to the relationship between farming and the landscape. So our approach to addressing the challenges is to work very closely with farmers. And this is critically important because farmers, they own the land, they own the livestock, they have the knowledge of how to manage this landscape. So we work very closely with these farmers to encourage and support financially and technically and in other ways the right type of farming practice. And at the same time we try and strongly discourage and restrict negative activities. So it's trying to work with farmers to do the right thing. Very simply, the approach that we use is based on a few principles, and those principles we feel can apply really anywhere, on any farm, anywhere. And the principles we adopt are, firstly, to take a farmer-centred approach, because ultimately, at the end of the day, you can have all the policy and research you want, but it's down to the farmer to deliver the results. So we view the farmer as critical and as central to our approach. Secondly, we very much advocate a local approach. The Burren is unique, other landscapes are equally unique. So our approach is tailored to suit the needs of the Burren and the people within the Burren. Our third principle is we pay for performance or pay for results. So we don't have a flat rate payment for our farmers. We pay the farmers on the basis of their environmental performance. Our fourth principle would be one of partnership. The National Park Service, the Department of Agriculture, the farmers, the farm advisors, the local team, we're all partners in a process. We all have a lot to gain from this, and we also have a lot to lose if we don't work together. So we have really good, solid, practical working relationships across all the partners involved in the project. In terms of the detail of the project, it's really simple actually. There's two main measures. Our first measure is a result-based payment. We have a simple scoring system which captures the environmental health of every field of high nature value in the farm every year. And the higher the score, the higher the payment received by the farmer. So that's really rewarding the farmer for delivering environmental outcomes. Complementing that payment, we have a fund for conservation works. So if you want to make sure you get the highest possible score, you're going to have to ensure that your water points are clean, that the land is well grazed. You're going to have to ensure that there's no invasive species. So that takes a lot of work. It could be repairing walls and installing gates, protecting water sources, pumping using solar or maybe wind power to watering points. It could be improving access. It could be removing invasive species. So we have a fund through which farmers can get co-funded support to help with those actions. So our approach along those two principles is very much result-based. We reward the farmer for the environmental outcomes, and we make funding available for the farmer to improve those environmental outcomes year on year. In terms of the impact of the Burren Programme, there was a recently conducted external evaluation of the programme which showed that at least 33 million euros worth of landscape and biodiversity improvement have been generated since 2010 on our 330 farms. It also showed that there's a strong economic impact. 23 million euros have been generated in the local economy, supporting 20 local jobs each year among Burren businesses, contractors and craftspeople. And it also showed a huge social impact in terms of new networks, new roles for farmers, new leadership roles, a greater respect for farmers and the role that they play in looking after the Burren, and the development of knowledge sharing networks in the Burren across Ireland and across Europe as well. So for the investment of about 10 million euros over the last 10 years approximately, the Burren Programme has generated really significant social, economic and environmental benefits for farmers, for the local community and for wider society.